E4 seems like a really tough move for a human to find.
If he plays that move, I will salute Magnus. What a move if he finds it.
This game by Magnus Carlsen is perfection from start to finish. It was played in the Esports World Cup finals. Denis Lazovic, his young opponent, tried to catch Magnus in a really sharp opening, and boy did it backfire. Watch this. Queen sacrifice on the way. Denis tries the Caro Khan in a must-win situation here. They were playing in Paris, opposite each other on computers, even though they're in the same room. Magnus goes for this exchange variation, almost falls asleep himself. It's got such a reputation for being boring, but he doesn't go c3. He goes for the explosive c4. Now he's allowing himself to get an isolated queen's pawn here. He doesn't mind playing with that, getting the imbalance. We now see an incredible horse box on the board. Magnus even makes a little pony noise. Excellent etiquette there. Pawn a6 takes control of b5, and now we get captures here. Knight takes back and bishop c4, and it's on the way. The razor sharp grandmother theory. You could take here, or you could play e6, although that looks pretty passive. This guy's crying a bit, and so bishop e6 was selected. Now, yes, it defends this knight in the center, but you run slap bang into knight g5, and is your whole position not just collapsing? Well, yes, unless you play in this manner. Here we go. Knight takes on c3, and the fireworks begins. Now, if you simply recapture the piece, let's ask the obvious first. This doesn't work because you just lose a straight piece. So you do have to now capture here with one of these guys. Knight takes is not a good idea. When you run down the entire line, black comes out significantly better. So the way to go is bishop takes. It gets given the double exclam because you're sacrificing an entire queen on d1. Denis takes it, and this is now the follow-up point. You take with bishop, not knight. You want to flush that king out from its cubby hole. Now we see another check. It invites repetition and draw. Denis doesn't want that. He sidesteps to c7. Another check from Magnus. King b6. And now the rook's recaptured. We reach this critical position here where white's got very, very active minor pieces and rook, plus a central pawn in compensation for that queen. But if black can ever get the army out, it shouldn't be enough, right? Let's see how it goes. Denis now tries to hide that king in the corner. Pawn d5 from Magnus. We're following top theory here. There are other games in this position. And now we got to ask the question, why can't you just move this knight here? You know, somewhere. Let's say to a5, trying to head for here or something. Well, now you can check, or even rook c1, apologies, cover the c4 jump. You can also check with the bishop. There's different ways to play. Pawn b6 one line. Now rook c1 to control the knight. b3 could come. The big issue here is that all the white pieces are controlling the black ones. They're awful. They're out the game. And knight f7 is this huge threat still. Let's back it up. Denis plays the top move. And it's queen a5 check. So yes, after bishop d2, you've now got two bits hanging here. Magnus, of course, finding the top lines. But knight b4 takes care of both issues. And if you now try pawn a3, no good, because black lands a check and is actually winning in that position. Picture king f1, queen b5 check, moving into e2. So Magnus plays the right move here. What must you do? Get that king to safety, of course, and here we reach a critical moment. Queen b5 looks really natural. It's the second top move. This is the back cave, analysis mode. You allow the knight to jump in, you can save the rook. This is how the line goes, something along these lines. This one starts hopping, massive square here now. Let's pause it somewhere around here. Pawn takes his main line, and you lose a rook, but you do block in the bishop. Somehow this game goes on with something of an equilibrium where black is facing the queen off to, what is it, a bishop and a rook and some pawns. It's something of a balance, but white's a little better. Dennis didn't want this line. Maybe Dennis couldn't remember this line. I'm not sure. But he didn't play queen b5. He went pawn g6. It's actually the top move in the entire position. You allow pawn a3, which Magnus plays. You move the queen. You lose an entire knight, but at least you get some development going. Rook's now connected. Bishop on the long diagonal there. Magnus takes on e7, not the best move, but Dennis goes wrong. He should play here, bishop takes on b2. It leads to a very long line, which comes out something in a balanced position, amazingly, apparently, with top play. However, he tiptoes just a smidge wrong and plays rook h to e8. And there it is. On move 20, it's Dennis that blinks first, forgets the theory, and goes wrong. Or arguably Magnus shouldn't have taken that pawn, should have played b3, but that's an aside. If you want to know all your opening stuff, obviously go and check out Lotus Chess. The link's down in the description, and as well as doing openings, it does end games. There's even a foundations course for people newer to chess. Truly incredible, free to get started. Check it out below. Let's carry on here because Magnus now moves the bishop. It's attacked. Yes, he could have supported it, but then you loosen these minors here, especially the bishop on e6. So he didn't go for that. The knight's now kicked forwards, and Dennis, under pressure, down on the clock, just cracks, capitulates. He should play bishop takes on b2. White remains better here. Rook b1 can come. These guys are swarming. The passed pawn is incredibly dangerous. It's going to cost black some material. But in the game, we saw the more concrete solution. Rook takes on e6, trying to clarify, but it's concrete in a bad way. Maybe the wrong word. Point is, now Magnus's pawn is just 2 steps from home, incredibly dangerous. Queen f5 is the follow-up move. Hit the pawn, pressure the knight, but here we go. Magnus in full form, and before you can say...
He finds it, Ben. He finds the right move.
That was the best move.
That was the best move. I raise my hat. I salute the world #1, Magnus Carlsen.
Now we get rook c8. Rook fe1 supports the pawn. Why wasn't it taken, by the way, just here? Well, then there's this check. This is one sample line. Pawn blocking. Rook invading now with tempo, giving an entire knight to then set up these discovered issues. This is the point. One sample and white emerges 2 pawns ahead. It really is a killer position. So the pawn wasn't touched. Instead, we get this rook c8 move, preparing to chop off that bishop when it checks. Magnus defends his pawn. Bishop c3 attacks that rook, but Magnus, completely undeterred, plays the killer move. Bishop c5 check. Now the king doesn't step back. If it does, the knight can start jumping. Hit a rook, hit a queen. It's awful. Even if you ever take, rook recaptures, the pawn's running. Knight d6 supports its progress, the queening square. So because of that, Dennis desperately chops, giving up his second rook. Now he takes on e1, but after rook recaptures, Denis Lazovic resigns the game and loses the match because the pawn's running. It's unstoppable. You can do something like this, but you now ultimately need to give up your queen or let white make a new queen. That is game over. Magnus takes it home, as he so often does. Hope you enjoyed this one. Great to be back. I had a summer holiday there with the family. I'll be catching up the chess this week, and do have a look at the video on screen in case you missed this incredible game. Hans Niemann involved. What drama. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.